It's Diana of Cauldron and Craft. Summer is ending and we're full into harvest season. I have a few things that I need to start processing to save for the winter and into next year, and I've been putting it off, honestly, but to get myself motivated, I'm gonna do a little fall sweet treat, an apple crumble, and while that's baking, I'll take the time to do some of the other things that I need to do, some of the other chores, and chat about just harvesting and gardening and how the summer has gone so far. So let's get started. This is my next task that I have to do, and it's shelling my black beans. And this is probably the biggest thing that I've been putting off because look at it. They've been drying in my pantry on a screen, an actual window screen that I found, for a month. So they sound very crispy. So I have to shell all these, and hence why I need a sweet treat as a motivation. So let's do that. One down, a million more to go. It is very satisfying though, the little crack, and then all the little beans come out. I really can't say why I've been putting off the harvest activities. I've been gardening for a while in pots and stuff. That's where I got started gardening in containers, which I have tons of videos about that. That's kind of why I started my YouTube channel was just to share like what I was doing. But with containers, you don't get as much of a yield. Like there's just not, if you don't have a lot of space, you don't have a lot of room to get a lot of harvest. So maybe that's why I'm not used to it now. And I'm trying to keep up with the gardening, like actual gardening, because I want to garden year round. I can where I live. So for example, I just planted cabbage and collards yesterday. I actually planted the collards in the spot where these beans were growing, and I mentioned in a previous video how beans fix nitrogen in the soil, so hopefully that will help the collards grow better, because greens need a lot of nitrogen. So I'm still going between 2 different community gardens to plant stuff and weed and all, you know, all those things. And I'm continuing to harvest peppers. Like my peppers, I feel like didn't even really get going until towards the end of summer. But this is my first time doing beans ever. It was really just an experiment. And I meant to plant 12, but I think I might have missed one of the holes. So either 11 or 12 beans that I planted from a bag from the grocery store, just as an experiment. And I got all of this. And when I reflect back on just gardening in general, this year, and my first time being able to do in-ground at the community gardens, it's reminding me how when I started gardening in containers, it really made me like reject the scarcity mindset of capitalism. Like we're constantly bombarded with the message that there's not enough, and we have to fight for what we get, the scraps that we get, and you know, it pitting us against each other to like fight for resources when that's not reality. I remember learning that I wanted more herbs. So I started my container garden originally, however many years ago, with some starts from a nursery, and I really wanted more lavender because the bees love lavender, but I also love lavender. I wanted to harvest my lavender, but I felt bad that if I harvested it, then there wouldn't be any for the bees. So when I was learning about how to, like, I didn't want to go buy another plant. I wanted to try to grow it myself. And I guess it's kind of hard to grow from seed, but it's really easy to propagate from cuttings. So, and a lot of herbs are like that. So you cut off a piece of the plant, sage, lavender, whatever it is, you stick it in the dirt and it grows more roots, and then you have another plant. And I thought, how can there not be enough in the world if it's so easy to make more? Like, the earth is magic, and it just makes enough for us if we care for it and if we're stewards of the earth. And I think, and I've told my friends that just in passing in conversations about, especially about capitalism, where, you know, we're just like, people believe that there's not enough and they have to fight their neighbor and, you know, all kinds of other things, when really there's plenty if we are willing to tend to the earth. And I'm not saying everyone has to start their own garden and grow all their own, you know, food, but it's just proof that if you stay a little bit more connected to nature, then there is plenty. And beans are so cheap at the store. And I've seen a lot of people say, like, what's the point of even growing beans, because you can just buy them at the store? Well, one thing I've learned, first of all, is that there's tons of other bean types that are like, that you can't buy at the store. So that's one thing, but, you know, just you want something different. But black beans are super cheap. The bag that I bought to get the beans to grow was $1, I think, for a whole pound of beans, which is that's a lot of beans if you cook them up. But I really wanted to just know how to cook them, and 7 little beans, and who knows how long it's going to take me to shell all of these. So, but yeah, that's just my little rant about scarcity mindset, and I think like this time of the year, the harvest seasons and the wheel of the year, the Sabbats are a good time to reflect back on the year so far and how it's going, because the seeds that you planted in the spring, literally and figuratively, are, you know, could be coming to fruition. So overall, I think my gardens did really well. Tomatoes for sure. So this is going to be one of at least 2 videos about doing stuff with my harvest, because I have a lot of tomatoes, more than I ever, like obviously every year you hope for a lot of tomatoes, but to actually have so many, like I have to go check in my little log book to see how many I actually harvest, how many pounds. And I have made some salsa, so some of the pounds already have gone to salsa. But I really want to learn how to can. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. And in our previous home, we had a glass top stove, which I always read that you're not supposed to can on a glass top stove because the weight of the canner is too much for the glass top, and it can break it. But then also it doesn't it doesn't keep a constant temperature. It what's the word? Like it fluctuates. And that's something that it would take forever to get stuff to boil. And so I just never tried it. But now I have a gas stove, and I have a lot of tomatoes that I want to do something with. They're currently in the freezer because as I was getting so many, I thought, like, I got to do something. So I just started shoving them in the freezer to keep them, you know, not so they wouldn't go bad. And until I got the time and the energy and the confidence to do it. So I think my next video might be fall decorating. I haven't decided yet. But then after that, I think I'm definitely going to do a video about learning to can for the first time, and then canning. I think I lost a bean. And then canning my tomatoes. But I think I'm going to listen to an audiobook to keep working on this, because I've been talking for 8 minutes and I've like not even made a dent. So yeah. I'm currently listening to a book called Hellbent, which is the second in a series. So I last listened to Ninth House by Lee Bardugo, and I loved it. This time of year, I think it's because of the back to school, like even though I'm long out of school age, there's something about it that it makes me want to listen to like dark academia type of stuff. And even though I feel like I'm always disappointed with dark academia because I'm not that age anymore, and if it's too childish or too YA, then I just don't.
And my camera died. What I was going to say was, if a dark academia book is too YA and too childish and gets too much into the daily lives of the students, then I'm usually a little bit disappointed in it. But Ninth House was not like that. It has more to do with the secret societies at Yale and the magic and murder. It's pretty gory. So I very much enjoyed it, and now I'm on the second book. I finally finished shelling all the beans, and to give you an idea of how long it took, look how much these candles are burned down compared to when I first started.
Okay, here's the moment of truth. I got 1 pound, almost 2.5 ounces from my 11 beans. That is crazy. That is so crazy. I'm so happy. So I will pop this in the pantry and we'll have tons of black beans to use for quite a while. These are mostly serrano peppers. They've actually been probably the most prolific that I've had, because I have another plan for my cayenne peppers, which I'll show in a minute. But actually, I should say my most prolific pepper has been this, and it's one plant. I only planted cayenne peppers, serrano, Hungarian wax pepper, and jalapeno. Cayenne, wax pepper, serrano, jalapeno. And I'm getting all of those, except this one plant is something else, and I don't know where it came from. The only thing I can think of is maybe because I've had this packet of cayenne pepper seeds for a long time that have always grown really well for me. And maybe I saved seeds from the previous year where I had grown different peppers together and they got pollinated, so then the resulting seeds were different. But I'm also getting real cayenne peppers like this. So these just kind of look like mutant cayennes. But then I asked Reddit, and see, I think this is a jalapeno. It's just really small. I asked Reddit about my little mutant ones, and their consensus was they thought they might be like mutant serranos, but they kind of dry and crinkle. I mean, I guess all peppers probably do this, but they are very hot. And I've actually already lost some peppers to mold, so I wanted to go ahead and get a batch of hot sauce going to use up the bulk of these peppers, and I still have a ton coming in, so I'll have the opportunity to make more. And then for the cayennes, I'm going to hang them to dry because I think it looks kind of nice and aesthetic for them to have a hanging cayenne peppers. Looks kind of part of a witchy herb hanging thing. And cayenne peppers are one of the things that are recommended to have at an apothecary because it's such a warming herb. I mean, it's not an herb, it's a vegetable, or it's a fruit technically. But it's good for some medicinal properties. But then with the hot sauce, I've tried to make hot sauce before, but I did a long ferment and I didn't really like how it turned out. I think I put too much garlic in it. This recipe calls for garlic, but it's a small amount. And then I think I'm gonna add some roasted garlic at the end, after the ferment. But I was reading somewhere and, just talking about how peppers are very warming and good for the winter. And it's kind of like bringing the sunshine to the winter. So I think that's a nice way to look at it. I'm taking all this yummy goodness and I'm going to turn it into hot sauce that I can use all winter and enjoy literally the fruits of gardening. And hopefully it actually tastes good. And it's going to, a lot of people like to do only green or only red peppers in their hot sauce, but so it looks like a nice bright color. But I don't have only that, so I'm just gonna mix it up, and if it looks kind of muddy, then so be it. So basically what we're doing is making a mash of the garlic and peppers, and we're gonna let that ferment for a day or two, and then add vinegar and let it ferment for another week, and then we'll have hot sauce. Then I might still add roasted garlic at the end. Now I don't have cheesecloth, so I'm just gonna use a paper towel for the ferment. It's what I use for sourdough starter, so I feel like it'll work for this too. And in an upcoming video, I will show the rest of the process. Okay, the last thing on my to-do list today is to take my needle and thread and start threading up these cayenne peppers so that I can hang them to dry. So I'm gonna make a knot. What is it? I don't know what he wants. I mentioned earlier about cayenne peppers being good medicinally, but the other thing about having peppers hanging to dry is that they remind me of my great-grandmother's house in the country in North Carolina. And I remember she would always have like peppers hanging, and she'd always tell us not to touch them because then we could get burned. Excuse me, sir. So I've had some of these peppers for a while, and they're already kind of dry. I had them drying next to the beans, and then I have some fresh ones that I just harvested this week. But basically I'm just sticking the needle through the top and then just sliding it down, and then I'll have a nice little bunch to hang. Some of these look kind of funky, but I think they're okay. I think this might have been a serrano, but I think it's okay. It's fatter than the cayenne peppers. Now here's all my fresh ones that I just harvested. And I have many more on the plant that are still green and will be red soon. I want to leave the needle attached so I can keep putting them on, so I kind of just draped it over the corner of this picture for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope your harvest season is very abundant, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up to help this video reach other people who might like it. And obviously I would be so thankful if you subscribed, and I will see you in a future video about even more harvests. See you next time. Can you say bye-bye, Jupiter? Can you say bye-bye?